Everybody would try for gold, everybody would try for silver. So he thought that it would be lead that could hold the future of Portia. And he was right. So she offered him her ring and told, if you lose it, means you lose me. If you keep it, it means you love me. So it's a kind of sign that the ring is valuable. It's a kind of token of love. It's a kind of token of symbol that he likes Portia. Bassanio's friend Graciano and Portia's maid Nerissa, they were in the room at the same time and had seen all that had happened. Graciano now came forward and said that he wished them joy in their marriage and that he and Nerissa wished to be married at the same time. Wishing them much happiness, Portia and Bassanio agreed at once. But now something happened which made them all very troubled. A messenger came bringing a letter to Bassanio from his friend, the merchant of Venice. As Bassanio read the letter, Portia saw him turn pale. The letter contained bad news. She asked quickly what was the matter. So Bassanio told her about the money he had borrowed and how Antonio had promised to give Shylock a pound of his flesh if he could not repay him by a certain day. This letter showed that all Antonio's hopes had been disappointed. My ships are lost, he wrote, and I have no now to pay the Jew according to our bond. And since in paying him it is impossible that I should live, I much wish to see you at my death. So Antonio was such a great man. He did not tell that because of helping his friend, he is going to die. But he did not write the letter to Bassanio just to make him have the pressure to get the money from anywhere. So he did not mention that anything, any argument, nothing. He just told that at the death, as you were my best friend, at my death, you should come and stay beside me. The messenger who brought the letter then told them that the day when Antonio was supposed to repay the 3,000 ducats had passed, and Shylock had sent again and again to the Duke of Venice, who dealt with such matters, asking him for justice. And so forth, Antonio now was in prison waiting for his trial. When Portia heard this unhappy story, she wanted to give all the help she could. She said that she would repay several times the 3,000 ducats that were owed to Shylock, and she asked Bassanio to go and help his friend as soon as possible. Only they must be married before anything else. So all our four went at once to church and were married. Bassanio and Graciano then left their wives and went straight back to Venice. But as soon as they had left, Portia began to think how she could save Antonio's life. Because she loved her husband, she decided to do everything she could to help his friend. So she therefore sent a letter to a cousin of hers, a well-known and clever lawyer, asking for advice. She asked him to send her his counselor's robes, which he wore when he gave counsel in a court of justice. Her friend, Dr. Bellario, at once sent her the robes and advised her in what a counselor should do in court and in what way she should defend Antonio. Portia at once decided what she would do. To her friends and servants, she said that she was going to spend a few quiet days in a monastery until her husband returned. Then she called her friend Nerissa and told her about her plan. They both dressed themselves in men's clothes and started for Venice. Meanwhile, Bassanio and Graciano had reached Venice and had entered the court of justice. So the trial was due to begin. When the time came, the Duke of Venice entered and took his seat. Antonio, the prisoner, was brought in, and the Duke called for Shylock. When Shylock entered, the Duke begged him to give up his cruel and demand and not to take a pound of Antonio's flesh. But Shylock would not listen to the Duke. Then Bassanio offered to pay him not only the 3,000 ducats, but twice the amount if he would let Antonio go. Still, Shylock would not be merciful. The laws of Venice, he said, allow me to demand a pound of Antonio's flesh because he has not repaid the money on the right day. Now thought Shylock to himself, at last I shall have my revenge on this How would Christian march in for all the scorn he has shown me and he loved to himself? Now it happened that the Duke had sent for a learned lord to advise him about this difficult case, and the man he had written to was the same Dr. Bellario who had given his advice and his ropes to Portia. Before giving judgment in the case, the Duke decided to wait for the lawyer. It may be he thought that so learned a man can find a way of saving Antonio's life. Just as he decided this, a man came in saying that he brought a letter from Dr. Bellario. In this, the doctor wrote that he was ill and could not therefore come to the court himself. So he asked that a young friend of his, Dr. Balthazar, might be allowed to come instead. The Duke gave his permission and invited the young doctor to come in. The clerk who brought the letter for the Duke was really Nerissa, Portia's maid. She was dressed as a man. You have probably guessed who Dr. Balthazar was. Although he was surprised to see how young the landlord was, the Duke invited him to defend Antonio. Portia, for it was she, turned to Shylock and begged him to show mercy to Antonio. Mercy, she said, bringing a blessing to him who shows mercy and to him who receives. But Shylock could not listen to her. As he said, is the payment of what is owed to me? Whereas Portia, can he not pay back the sum you lent him? Bassanio quickly said he can pay this and more, for I can pay it for him 10 times over. He begged the counselor to set the law aside his wants to do a great right. He said, do a little wrong. No, so this is very important. Bassanio quickly said he can pay this and more, for I can pay it for him 10 times over. He begged the counselor to set the law aside this once, to do a great right. He said, do a little wrong. So to do a great right, do a little wrong. This is very special. No, answered Portia, this cannot be done, for if we set the laws aside now, others may follow this very example, and the country will suffer if it neglects its own laws. Shylock was delighted when he heard this answer, and he thought that he would now win his case. He praised the wise young judge and laughed at Antonio. Portia then asked to see the written agreement. Having read it, she agreed that Shylock could claim his pound of flesh. So she turned towards Antonio and commanded him to bear his breast. At this, Shylock, who was sure at last that he would have his revenge upon Antonio, called out, "Oh, noble judge, oh, excellent young man." Antonio, thinking that he was able to die, said goodbye to his friend Bassanio and begged him to tell Portia why he had died. Bassanio, in his unhappiness, replied that there was nothing he would not give, his own life or even his wife, to save Antonio if he could. Now said Portia to Shylock, take what is owed to you. Cut from this man's breast the pound of flesh. Shylock, his knife ready in his hand, moved forward to cut out Antonio's heart. "Oh, learned judge," he said, "oh, learned judge." And to Antonio, "Come, prepare." But before he could drive his knife into Antonio's body, Portia stopped him. "What?" she said. "There is something else. This bond allows you no drop of blood. The words say clearly a pound of flesh. But if in cutting it you spill one drop of blood, then by the laws of Venice all your property shall belong to the state of Venice." Shylock stood quite still. He was so surprised and angry that he could scarcely move. "Is that the law?" he asked. Now Shylock is in the bark. He is now in danger in deep waters. The law has put him in the worst position. Shylock is now going to lose all his wealth. Portia offered to show him the law on the subject by which those who caused blood to flow unlawfully were punished by having their property taken by the state. Now it was Gasciano, seeing how angry Shylock was, who cried out, "Oh, learned judge, take note, Jew, a learned judge." Shylock then remembered Bassanio's offer to pay back the money 3 times over. "I take your offer then," he said to Bassanio. "Pay back 3 times what I lent Antonio and let him go." Bassanio, delighted at Antonio's escape from death, at once held out the money to Shylock, but Portia stopped him. "Shylock, should have the pound of flesh and nothing more. Oh, Jew, cried Graciano, laughing at him again, an upright jars, a learned jars. Come, take your pound of flesh, Shylock, said Portia. A pound no more, no less, but no drop of blood. Why do you hesitate? Shylock now thought that he might at least get back the money he had lent. Give me back some which I lent and let me go. Here it is, said Bassanio, offering him 3,000 ducats. But no, Portia would not allow that. A little while ago, Shylock had refused the money when it had been offered to him, so now he should have nothing. The angry Shylock was about to leave the country when Portia called him back. Wait, she said, there is a law which says that if a foreigner plans to kill a Venetian citizen, half his property goes to that citizen and the other half to the state. So Anthony will be given the half of Shylock's money, property, and the half of the portion will go to the state. And the Duke may order any other punishment he thinks right. So kneel to him and beg for mercy. Shylock, who a little time before had refused all mercy to Antonio, could not now expect mercy for himself. But the Christian Duke was more merciful than the Jewish moneylender. That you may see how different our spirit from yours. He said, I give you your life before you ask for it, but half your wealth goes to Antonio and half to the state. And now the good merchant showed mercy to the Jew. I'll not take my share of Shylock's wealth, he said, but Shylock shall become a Christian. Shylock was also forced to sign a paper leaving his money after his death to his daughter Jessica and to her husband Lorenzo, who was also Antonio's friend. A little time before that, Jessica had run away from her father and married Lorenzo secretly. For this, Shylock had threatened to leave none of his money to her. The Jew now knew that he must obey Porcia's and Antonio's commands. Samuel, he cried, let me go home, send the paper up to me, and I will sign in. So the Duke let Shylock go, and the trial came to an end. During the trial, though, they were extremely surprised to see how young and wise the lawyer was. Neither Bassanio nor any of his friends suspected he was Portia. So cleverly had she changed her voice and her appearance. When the trial was over, Bassanio and Antonio wished to show how thankful they were to the judge. Please accept the 3,000 ducats due to Shylock, begged Antonio, but Portia would not accept the money. When Bassanio again pressed her to accept something from him, Portia thought that she would play a joke upon her husband. Since you praise me so much, she said, give me your gloves. And well, when Bassanio took off his gloves and showed his hand as a sign of love, that ring on your finger. When Portia asked him for his ring, Bassanio could not help drawing his hand away, and it was the ring given him by Portia when she promised to marry him, and he had promised never to give it away. So at first he pretended that so small a present was not worth giving, and then when Portia asked again, he said that it was his wife who had made him promise never to give it away. That, replied Portia, is a common excuse for men when they do not want to give a present. Your wife will not be angry with you when she knows how well I have deserved the ring. Portia, with no Nerissa, her clerk, was about to leave them when Antonio persuaded Bassanio to give up the ring, and Bassanio was ashamed to seem unthankful, gave the ring to Portia. Nerissa also cleverly managed to persuade Graciano to give her the ring which he had received from her and had promised never to give away. After leaving Venice, Portia and Nerissa went as quickly as possible to Belmont in order to arrive before their husbands. When they had arrived, they at once looked off their men's clothes, dressed themselves as usual, and sat down to wait for the return of their husbands. Soon afterwards, the two entered with Antonio. Bassanio at once introduced Antonio to his wife. This is the friend, he said, to whose help I owe so much. While Portia was welcoming Antonio to her house, she saw Graciano and Nerissa quarreling in a current corner of the room. What carried Portia quarreling already? What is the matter? It is about a ring which Nerissa gave me. Graciano explained, a ring which had the words cut on it, love me and leave me not. not. I'm not angry because the ring was valuable, replied Nerissa, but because Graciano promised faithfully to keep it, and now he has given it away to a justice clerk. He should never have done that. Portia was now determined to have her joke against her husband. Of course, Graciano was wrong to give away his wife's first present. I too gave my husband a ring and made him promise to keep it. If he had given that ring away, I should indeed be angry with him. Then Graciano said, but Bassanio did give his ring away too. He gave it to the counselor who asked him for it, and then the boy, his assistant, begged me for my ring. When she heard this, Portia pretended to be very angry and asked Bassanio, what ring did you give? Not that one I have which you received from me? Bassanio, feeling very unhappy to see his wife act so angry, had to admit that he had given the ring away. If only you understood how unwillingly I gave the ring and to whom I gave it and why I gave it, you would excuse me for giving it. But Portia still pretended to be angry and said that doubtless Bassanio had given it to some woman. Bassanio, thinking that he had really hurt Portia's feelings, said that he had given it to the lawyer because he was so grateful to him for saving Antonio's life. If you had been there, he said, I think that he would have begged me to give him the ring. Then Antonio turned to Portia and said, I'm the unhappy cause of these quarrels. Do not treat these so seriously, replied Portia. Then taking the ring from her bag, she said, here then give him this ring and tell him to keep it better than he kept the other. So Antonio passed the ring to Bassanio, who looked at it and was extremely surprised to see that it was the ring he had given away. Portia then showed her husband the letter from Dr. Bellario, and so he learned that the clever lawyer was really Portia's life. His wife. Great was his surprise and delight to find out his own wife, by her courage and wisdom, had saved the life of his dear friend Antonio. Shortly afterwards, Antonio learned good news about his own affairs. Portia had sent him some letters which had just arrived. From this, Antonio learned that the ships which he thought were lost had returned to Venice with valuable cargoes. Antonio was a wealthy man again, and thus ended this strange story of the merchant of Venice. In good news to the merchant and love between wives and husbands were the joke of the rings. That's the happy ending. That's why this is a comedy, dark comedy.